Welcome everybody to the next event in the Earth Science Women's Network event series. So this is the third installment in our Careers Outside Academia, Careers Beyond Academia webinar series. And this time we're talking all about careers in government sectors. And we have three really awesome panelists who have joined us today. And we're excited for all of you in the audience as well to experience this. So a bit about what to expect during today's event. So we've got a quick overview and some announcements for 5 minutes, which is what's happening right now, followed by some panelist introductions for about 15 minutes, followed by a Q&A session and a panel discussion, which will be a moderated Q&A. If you've got any questions, send them through to me. So I'm labeled questions at ESWN in the chat, and we'll make sure that those questions get to your panelists. Then we'll also have a breakout session, which will be around 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how the event's running. And each panelist will be in their own breakout room, and you can move between these rooms and go and meet the panelist you'd most like to speak to and move between them as well. So a quick disclaimer that this is an Earth Science Women's Network hosted event with speakers from different government agencies. So a bit of housekeeping, we ask that you abide by ESWN's Code of Conduct, which will be dropped in the chat very shortly. You should have signed this upon registering. If you somehow found yourself here without having signed this, please take a moment to go to our website and have a look at this and familiarise yourself. All aspects of the event, except for the breakouts, are being recorded for those that can't join us live. And this will be up on our YouTube channel within 5 to 7 working days of the event date. The event's fully closed captioned, and you can show or hide the captions using the CC button at the bottom of your screen. If you hide this for you, it won't hide it for anyone else. You're also going to be muted for the duration of the event. This is to maintain a quiet environment for our speakers. If you somehow find that you can unmute yourself, please don't, just so that we can maintain that environment for our speakers. Quick reminder that you can send your questions through to me at questions@ESWN. Also remember to share your thoughts in the chat as the event progresses. We're all virtual, we're not in person, so remember to tell us what you're thinking. If you have any tech issues, please also remember to send them through to questions@ESWN via the chat. So a bit about the Earth Science Women's Network if you haven't come across this before. So ESWN is a 501c3 nonprofit organisation dedicated to increasing diversity across the geosciences, with an emphasis on creating and supporting a nurturing community, working for cultural change to eliminate barriers to a diverse scientific workforce and empowering scientists through professional development. And we encourage you to become a member if you're not already. So why did we choose to host this event? So there are so many careers beyond academia, and your earth science background can really make a difference and take you to lots of different places. And we've got 4 different sectors shown here. So you can go into industry, national labs, science communication, or government, which is the one that we're focusing on today. This event has been organised by 4 of us who are on different ESWN committees. So my name is Rayma. I'm the ESWN Member Events Co-Chair, and I am currently adventuring in the world of UK Research Councils, and I'm joined today by Anna, who will now introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Constantino. I'm a water resources engineer. I live in California and work in the Western US, and I am on the Professional Development Committee for Earth Science Women's Network. So happy to be here today.
Cool. And Anna and I also organised this event with Ilana Pollock, who is based at Colorado State University as a research scientist, and Katie Boyd, who's also at Ceres/the University of Colorado, where she's an education and outreach associate. So now it's exciting time. We get to introduce our panelists to you. So we're joined by Crystal Tulley-Cordova, who's a principal hydrologist at the Department of Water Resources in the Water Management Branch in Navajo Nation. Birgit, who's a research scientist based at the Institut for Physik der Atmosphäre in Germany, and Yaítza Luna-Cruz, who's a program scientist within NASA headquarters. And we're now going to hand over to each of them to tell us a bit more about themselves. So we're going to be joined by Crystal first, and I will have your presentation up very shortly. So now this should be running.
Diat she Crystal Tulley-Cordova Yanashiat, Twitch eating the Schlet Katnes at Nebashchin, Hashkan Hadzoha Edashache, Tuo Heglini Edashanella. I am of the Bitterwater clan, born for the Tangle People clan. My maternal grandfather's clan is the yucca fruit strung on a line, and my paternal grandfather's clan is the water that flows together. So within my identity is the opportunity to also work in the science world. And this interest in science started at a very young age. In case you're having trouble trying to find me, I put a little sun ray around myself so you can see my face right there. And I was in 4th grade when I did my first water filtration science project. Many of you may have had interest in the sciences at a very young age. And this teacher, Mrs. Infield, like I remember some of her lessons that she taught, such as the layers of the earth, having an understanding, you know, of the magma inside the earth, the oceans, how things have changed over time. And at a very young age, it was a great opportunity for me to be able to learn and to, you know, start that seed of growth within the sciences. And it was in my high school year. I don't know. I mean, a lot is happening at that time period, right? Between middle school and high school, preteens and teenage years. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to stand apart from your parents, your friends, maybe. And for me, you know, during my senior year of high school, I had the opportunity to be able to meet Carletta Chief, who was running for Miss Navajo competition. And similar to many pageantries throughout the world, you know, it's a world depending on the different characteristics that you have. But the unique thing about this pageantry is that it also involves butchering a sheep, a part of the pageant. So many times, you know, you see gowns and all these beautiful things, and that's just shows like the unique type of beauty that we come from. But the unique thing about her was that she was a Stanford graduate. She got an undergraduate and a master's from Stanford, and had this environmental engineering and water interest that just intrigued me. Like for me, I guess I thought about people in the sciences with a lab coat and safety glasses and someone that didn't look like me. So to hear that she had these attributes and these accomplishments really intrigued me. And so I graduated high school and I naively chose a degree that made the most money. And it was a double E, electrical engineering. I mean, I'm not dissing on electrical engineers because of their great programs. We have opportunities like Zoom to be able to meet virtually. But for me, you know, it involves sitting at a computer, maybe not this old, but just providing an opportunity for me to try to make computers talk to one another, something I was very unsuccessful at. And when you're unsuccessful at it, you lose passion and desire to complete that task. So I lost my scholarships because of the GPA that I got as a result of not being very invested in this degree. So there came to a period that I needed to find myself. And so I had to return home. I grew up within the Navajo Nation. If you don't know much about the Navajo people, we call ourselves Diné, or people of the land. And we come from the Four Corners regions of the United States, southwestern United States. And this is what my environment looked like. I mean, everything associated with the water cycle. And, you know, there was just this interest, one, the aesthetic interest, right? Like it's so beautiful to be in a place like this, to be able to have this connection to the land and to be able to have all these questions come up, like, where does the water come from? Why does this stream run year round? Why does this other stream, you know, intermittently flow? Or, you know, what recharges these lakes? and just having an understanding too, right, of evapotranspiration. It's a part of a water budget that I sometimes think that we forget, but having this understanding that we cannot live without water, meaning not only humans, but wildlife, as well as like just our diet in general. Like, doesn't matter if we're vegan, vegetarian, or we like to enjoy steak, like our diet really revolves around the availability of water, as well as, you know, being able to quench our thirst as well. So once I realized that, in a combination with participating in professional societies like the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, as well as the Geological Society of America and the American Geophysical Union, I found this sense of community. Where I came from, you know, a lot of people had traditional knowledge associated with being a Native American. And so being able to realize that people had interest in me in STEM degrees really provided an opportunity to find myself and to realize that going to college is challenging, right? But that's okay if there's hindrances that may fall in your way, that there's opportunity to dust your knees off, get back up and try again. And so that's what I did, and, you know, had the opportunity to be in leadership roles within different academic professional societies. And also contributional to my career path was participating in internships. If you've not done an internship, or if you have done an internship, maybe you can align with me in having an understanding that you really find out what you're interested in or what you're not interested in. And for me, I worked at, you know, Los Alamos National Lab, Lawrence Livermore National Energy Technology Lab in Tulsa, and then Pacific Northwest National Lab. So I did have that opportunity not only to work during the summers, but at Los Alamos, you know, that was my work study. Even though it was 4 hours round trip to get to work, it provided that opportunity to make money to support myself after I lost those scholarships to pay for school. So when I lost those scholarships, I really had to work harder to try to, you know, continue to pay for school, because I knew that participating in higher education was the only way to be able to, you know, become self-reliant, as well as, you know, be able to provide a better life, not only for myself, but future family. That I didn't necessarily, when you're in college, you're not necessarily thinking that far, but your parents tend to remind you that there's a life outside of yourself, and that you need to kind of think about that type of security and build that foundation. And integrated into that is also the philosophy of growing up with multi-generational households that provided the opportunity to learn about our traditional ecological knowledge associated with the land that our people have been living in for millennia. And so this phrase here, simply put in English, is only 3 words: water is life. But in our teaching and way of life, it's so much more encompassing than that, meaning, you know, water supports everything in life. I mean, from the medicinal plants that we have to the plants that we grow to be able to live on that, the subsistence hunting that may be done, as well as, you know, the domesticated livestock that we now have, as well as the natural environment around us. And this is taught from a very young age, and is through oral history, continues throughout the generation. And so I work for the Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources, and our tribe was forcibly removed from our ancestral homelands and then returned back to our homelands. And so the chart on the right shows the pieces of land that were given back to the Navajo over periods of time. And it first started in 1868 with a treaty with the United States government. And so through different executive orders, our land has grown to be the largest land-based tribe in the United States. It's similar in size to West Virginia or the country of Ireland. And, you know, it straddles the upper and the lower Colorado River Basin, and it also has the Rio Grande Basin in it. So that's the lands that I work for. We're also the largest populated tribe in the United States. So just wanted to provide that preface. So here is a slide of what I do in my day-to-day. I mean, the slide on the upper left is the number of homes that don't have piped water. So I don't know what many of our audience may know about the Navajo Nation, but 40% of the Navajo Nation doesn't have pipe water. And so a lot of the homes, that red indicated more than 200 homes that don't have pipe water. The yellow or the orange was 150 to 200 homes. And then we also deal with legacy mining issues. In addition to that, we are trying to secure our water rights. So although I mentioned that we've lived in the area that we have for millennia, through the Western system, we are still trying to secure our water rights. And then the bottom right was just the drought map of, before the North American monsoon and after the North American monsoon. Those are all different things that I do in the work on day-to-day basis. So remember Carletta, Chief, that I mentioned to you in the beginning? What an awesome opportunity that she became a PhD committee member on my committee. And last year, we received a leadership award from the University of Arizona. And in the middle is my sister. My sister is learning as one of Dr. Chief's students at the University of Arizona in a PhD program. So just to show you, that these relationships that you build, although you may be an individual like me, when I met Carletta Chief for the first time, she didn't know I was there, but I was in a grandstand and heard her story, and she impacted my life. But I have the fortunate honor of being able to work with her on a continual basis, even on addressing water research issues within the Navajo Nation. So some of you may think about the work-life balance, like what does that look like? So contrary to the picture on the left, I really enjoy being outside. I enjoy being in the outdoors, learning more about water. And those pictures were just about the Colorado River. The Colorado River has been a lot in the media lately. And so just to be able to show, the best way to have an understanding about what's going on is seeing things firsthand as an earth scientist. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Crystal. That was such an amazing presentation. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story and about your work, your important work. Next, we have Birgit Hassler.
Yeah, so hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, there we are. So my name is Birgit Hassler. I'm a research scientist at the Institute of Atmospheric Physics at the German Aerospace Center in Germany. And the picture that you see here is one of the main things that I have been doing during my research career. It's the stratospheric ozone hole above Antarctica. So I grew up in a very small town in rural Swabia in Germany. You can see me here in the blue pants. You can't hear my Swabian accent or dialect when I speak English, but in German you can. So on the right, you see the logo of Baden-Württemberg, which is the state I was born in. And it basically says we can do everything except speaking proper German. So it's correct. I decided after high school that I wanted to get a degree in hydrology because I really liked science, but I couldn't make up my mind which one of them. So hydrology in that area actually encompassed everything, physics, chemistry, and so I got a degree in hydrology in Freiburg in Germany, which with a minor in soil science and also in meteorology. That minor actually got me my first job after I got the master's degree. So at that point, I didn't have a PhD, but only a master's degree. I got a job as a research assistant at the German Weather Service at the observatory in Hohenpeißenberg that you can see here on the two different pictures in stratospheric ozone research. I worked in a project for 3 years, and then I decided I really liked it. And so it took me a while to actually go and get my PhD then. But the work for the PhD took me to New Zealand. I got hooked on the ozone research. I really liked what I was doing, the atmosphere. So I moved away from the hydrology part and moved into the atmospheric part. I got the PhD so to get a PhD in atmospheric science, I went to New Zealand for 2 years. You can see here the station Lauder from NIWA, the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research in New Zealand, where I was stationed for 2 years in the middle of nowhere. And It was really beautiful. I loved it, but I could stay only 2 years because I did actually get the degree from a German university and I had to go back to actually get it. Yeah, so that is me having my self-made, well, my colleagues, my friends made the hat for me. It contains all kinds of things that I did in my PhD. I defended my PhD about stratospheric ozone trends at the University of Munich. That's really close to where I live now again. And yeah, right after that, basically I got, while I was in New Zealand, basically I was headhunted to go to Boulder and work there. And 2 months after I got my degree, I moved to Boulder. I worked at NOAA in Boulder. Beautiful, beautiful Boulder. And I was there for about 7 years. And I was there doing more ozone research in a group in the chemical science division there in this building. And the really cool part, most of the time I did data analysis, observations, and also some model simulations, but a lot of observations. And I actually was allowed to get my hands on an instrument that actually does measure ozone, and not just at Boulder, but on the next slide you see at the South Pole, which was freaking awesome. That was one of the highlights of my life and career so far. I was allowed to go to the South Pole to do some measurements with the Dobson spectrophotometer that's on the lower right. One of the two tiny people there is me doing measurements during 24-hour sunlight. The Dobson spectrophotometer is taken to the South Pole every 4 years, which is one of those instruments is newly calibrated from Boulder. And then you have to have 2 observers at the same time to actually make sure that the time series that is measured there doesn't have any gaps and any jumps. So for about 2 weeks, they need 2 operators for 2 Dobsons. And I was lucky enough in 2012 to actually be one of those 2 observers, which was awesome. I loved my 2 weeks in the South Pole. After 7 years in Boulder, I worked for another 6 months in New Zealand while I was not really sure what I wanted to do, and like the jobs were falling through. My job ended in Boulder, and because I'm a German citizen, I needed to have a visa to actually stay longer and to work there. And so I wasn't really sure what to do. And so I went back to New Zealand to work there for 6 months to figure out what I wanted to do. And got a job offer back in Germany at DLR, the German Aerospace Center. And so after those 6 months in New Zealand, which was a nice break, I moved back to Germany, and that's where I'm at now. So on the left, you see the Institute where I'm working now. And on the right, you see our highest mountain in Germany, Mount Zugspitze, which is like the higher peak of those peaks that you can see, with the Yaítza in the foreground. So it's a really nice area, rural, kind of like a really landscape area around here as well. But yeah, so that's me. I'm still doing ozone research a little bit here and there, but a lot more climate model evaluation. That's basically what I'm doing now with all kinds of trace gases, water vapor, methane, ozone, and other things. But yeah, work-life balance, that would be the next slide. I really love to be outside when I have my spare time. I love to row crew, and you can see 2 pictures here. One is picture with my friends here in Germany in a boat, and the other picture is at the Head of the Charles that I rode in Boulder as well. So the Head of the Charles regatta, that was really cool a few years back. And then some other things that I like to do in my spare time. The dog sledding was in Colorado, of course. It was really nice up in Breckenridge. Yeah, so beside being outside, I also like to make music, all kinds of music, and I like to go to concerts, listen to music. But this is actually me, where the white arrow is, that's me in the background there, singing at the really, one of the more traditional classical musics pieces here in Munich. And then on the left, you can see me being dressed up as one of the people singing in the the musical The Hunchback of Notre Dame that was performed here in Munich for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. And so I was performing 7 times, which was really awesome. So, and then the last slide. Yeah, and I like to travel. I love to travel. And so there's a few of the pictures that I've taken over the time. I have been to all continents so far, including Antarctica, which was like a bonus. But yeah, I've been all over the place and I loved it. Every single trip has been awesome. And yeah, it's a little more tricky now with being a little more aware of your carbon footprint to travel. But within Europe, it's a lot easier because you can actually take the train to a lot of places. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Birgit. That was wonderful. Now we're going to move to Yaítza, please.
Okay, hi everyone. Today I will be sharing my story. I call it Unexpected Careers in Earth Sciences. How did I get to work at NASA? I was born and raised in a small town in Puerto Rico, coming from a very humble Latino family with limited resources. I started to learn at a young age that whatever you believe, you become, but you're not just a dreamer, you are a creator. You need action. And sometimes you need to create your own opportunities. And here's why. I started my educational journey at the University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez, in which I earned a bachelor's degree in physics. Back then, there was no atmospheric science program, and I saw the need. So I decided to create and be the first president of the AMS student chapter in Puerto Rico. After 2 years, I earned a master's degree in physics, but I also completed the later established atmospheric science and meteorology program. And that opened the door to move to Washington, D.C. to earn a doctorate degree in atmospheric physics. And you can see here in the image, from installing radiometers in Africa to launching radio sondes in the Caribbean, flying over the southern agricultural fields of California, to flying inside a Category 4 hurricane, my PhD experience at Howard University was extraordinary. When I defend my dissertation, I was ready to conquer the world. But wait. The day I defend my PhD, the government shut down and I lost my postdoc funds. I was forced to join the line of let's find a job as soon as possible. And just like that, welcome to season 1 of Unexpected Careers in Earth Sciences. To my surprise, because I didn't even know it was an option, I joined the Department of Defense for a surprising and amazing career as a subject matter expert in atmospheric transport and dispersion modeling, including extreme weather events. Yes, they need atmospheric scientists to support 24/7, 365 operations for federal and international agencies. But none of this was easy. It was very hard to navigate the defense environment as a young Latina female doctor. Just look at this image. In atmospheric sciences, only 5% are Hispanic or Latino. From that, the percentage of women with a doctorate degree is even lower. After 5 years in defense, looking to expand my radius and my experience, it was time for season 2 of Unexpected Careers in Earth Sciences. I completely shifted my career to join the private sector, working as a product and project manager for a climate analytics company in New York City. Almost 2.5 years from that season, guess what? In 2020, there was a release of a special episode. I lost my job due to the pandemic. I was completely shocked living in New York City. The struggle was real, but during some of the darkest times in my life, my vision pulled me forward. My vision helped me to stay focused, a vision of doing science with purpose, a purpose of helping others to do the same. I never quit. My purpose was bigger than my circumstances. I turned adversity into opportunity. After 8 months, the season finale was finally announced. Almost 2 years ago, I joined NASA headquarters as a program scientist for the Chief Science Data Office. At NASA, I'm working with different initiatives like open science and environmental justice, and I'm extremely grateful to work with an amazing team that is really trying to make a difference, creating a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive scientific workforce. Key takeaway here. Surprises are going to come. Prepare yourself to expect the unexpected. And as you embrace your journey, create a vision, find your purpose, build your skills, be proactive, leave the door open, and always, always believe in yourself. Success is not a straight line. You will have a lot of roadblocks along the way. What is going to define your success is the way that you react and the character that you build in difficult times. I hope my story helped you understand that it's okay to take different paths. Be brave, take risks, embrace your uniqueness, explore different opportunities, and always, always be open. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Yaítza. We're gonna move into our general Q&A session, but I just want to take a minute to say thank you so much to the panelists for preparing these talks, because it's really, I mean, for me, I'm sure for everyone, just really inspiring and interesting and very motivating. So really appreciative for you making the effort to prepare those. Thank you. And also thank you to everyone that registered for the webinar and put such thoughtful questions that we were able to pull from. We had a lot of questions to think about, and we narrowed them or grouped them into 7 themes. So we're going to go around to the different panelists and ask them your questions, starting with questions about transferable skills. So I'm going to ask a few questions that are all related to one theme, and then we'll direct those to different panelists one at a time. So a few questions to think about: which skills and competencies are most highly valued in your organization? Are there skills you can hone or develop within your academic position that help you specifically with government job applications? And how do you frame academic skills to make them maybe more attractive for government positions? And we'll start with Yaítza on this one. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to highlight here that it's very important to be aware that we are living in a world that is very interdisciplinary. So, and we have a lot of problems that are very complex, that requires different skills. So as you are embracing in your educational journey or in your different work environments, make sure that have multiple skills, not just one area. So I encourage you to be willing to learn from different areas, specifically develop emotional intelligence, develop cultural intelligence. Those are the interpersonal skills that they don't teach that in the curriculum, in the academic environment, but skills like, for example, management, organizational skills, how to brand yourself, and how to how to network. Those skills are extremely important when you are thinking about having a job in a government.
Great, thank you, Yaítza. Crystal, do you have anything to add on these questions?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think there are skills that are, that you've been learning all your life that are very beneficial for any type of job. And that includes communication skills. In academic setting, oftentimes, we participate in different types of communication: verbal communication, written communication, and even within written communication, various types of communication within written communication, whether that be applying for funding through different grants that you may write, or maybe describing your research to different audiences. I think science communication is really key. So within And that's what I gained from working in academia, you know, an opportunity to be able to publish papers and be able to get a taste of what that felt like. But then also being able to work at the level that I'm at, the communication skills may be varied. And I think, you know, as individuals that work in different environments, it's important to be flexible with the type of communication skills that you have, as well as to, you know, be a good listener. I think sometimes as academics or scientists, we feel like we have the most amount of knowledge to share with people. But I think, you know, from the job that I'm in now, working for a tribal nation and working with a lot of people in a different setting that may not have that science background, it's important for me to have an understanding that they have a knowledge about their place and environment that I don't necessarily have. And so being able to do that, as well as team working skills and cross collaboration, co-creating solutions is definitely key. And with the challenges that we're we are experiencing with climate change impacts, I definitely think that speaks to that interdisciplinary, meaning everyone has something to offer to the solution now with the challenges that we are currently experiencing.
Thank you both so much for that. Our next theme is about career transition. So first question, where did you start and how did you build a career in government? Why did you move into government? And what experiences or training helped you prepare most for your position? And we'll start this one with Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you. I kind of tripped into government, and I say that because I had a professor that I work with say, are you interested in an internship? And that internship was at Los Alamos National Lab. And I didn't know what an internship was because the family that I come from, you know, didn't have a science background. And so, you know, that was kind of foreign and new to me. I knew that I might have to move. So I did go into government in that route, but you know, every day was a learning experience for me for the type of equipment that they have at the national labs that I worked at, and just being able to have that opportunity to be able to see that it's a different culture. Working at a national lab provides a different culture associated with the working there, and being able to, you know, be adaptive to my environment was definitely key. And then to also transition, right? Like where I come from, there's a lot of legacy mining issues associated with uranium extraction. And the best place to learn about radioactivity is a national lab like Los Alamos, given the history that they have. And so that provided me an opportunity to learn in ways that textbooks at a university wouldn't otherwise be able to help me. And then I proceeded on into I always knew that I wanted to come home to work for my tribe, and it was always a desire of mine to be a hydrologist. And now I'm a principal hydrologist, and I just really, you know, appreciate the opportunity to be able to give back to the community that I come from, because they gave me a lot in my life in raising me to be the person that I am today.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Birgit, could you respond to this question, please?
Sure. It's kind of funny because I stumbled into governmental job as well. It wasn't really planned. It kind of happened. It was an opportunity for me to pursue the ozone research that I have been doing before. I did not start in atmospheric science. I have a degree in hydrology and ended up in a governmental position at the German Weather Service doing research in ozone, because I had a transferable skill. I did apply statistical methods to hydrological data, and that was the selling point during my job interview, that I actually was hired for applying the same methodologies to atmospheric data. So that is definitely something that I can add also to the skill list. If you have something, you know, a skill that you develop in one specific field that is transferable, like, you know, application of statistics, for example, or writing, that helps. I kind of like the governmental positions. It gives you like some kind of security, although a lot of A lot of times it's really hard to get a permanent position. I just got mine 2 years ago, and I'm not that young anymore, so I'm very happy that that happened. But it can give you some kind of security, in the sense that you know that there's always being money that can be spent on the research and on the topics that you are interested in. I did internships as well in governmental institutions. I think one of the things that you have to be aware of is that governmental institutions are often connected to a lot of administrative tasks, and kind of like a lot of paperwork, where at universities things might be a little faster and a little quicker and a little less problematic. I normally don't have a problem with that, and so I think that's also one of the reasons why governmental work is fine with me. Some people don't like that, and then they get all nuts when they have to deal with a lot of that administration stuff. I think I did not have any specific training. It kind of happened that I ended up in government, but I'm in a governmental position, but I'm okay with that.
Great, thank you, Birgit. Yaítza, do you have anything to add to the career transition theme questions?
Career transition for government. I think the reason why I landed in government, it was because I was very specific in my career, in a point in my life, in my career, that I wanted to serve the society, serve the community, and the government agencies do exactly that. So I really wanted to do more service to the society, and that's how I end up in the government.
Thank you. The next theme is about international opportunities. We had quite a few questions about what are citizenship requirements for different government jobs? How challenging is it to find a government job internationally? What are some barriers? Birgit, could you talk about this to start, please?
Sure. So I have worked in 3 different continents, actually. So I worked in Germany, I worked in New Zealand, and I worked in the US. And it's in all the different places, it's a little different, right? So in the US, getting a work permit was a little trickier than for New Zealand, for example. In New Zealand, it's quite easy if somebody has a job offer or a job ad out and you apply, they basically just have to state that you are the best possible applicant, and that's normally fine. So working in New Zealand or going into, kind of like applying for jobs in New Zealand as a foreigner is relatively easy. As I said, US was a little more tricky. In Germany, it's actually not bad. We have now started hiring more international students, PhD students, for example. We have PhD students at our institutions, but also research scientists. It is easier, of course, if you are from the European Union, then hiring in Germany or working in Germany is a no-brainer. It's basically, it's not a big problem, but it's also not a huge problem if you are not from the European Union. It's the German language skill is actually not a super high priority. I was surprised to hear that. I was talking today to one of my colleagues who is Italian and now got a permanent position at the German Aerospace Center as well. He said it was never asked, basically. Normally, if you have in your job interview, maybe they check if you can speak German. It is often expected that if you don't speak German, that you learn it, that, at the basic understanding. And here at the German Aerospace Center, for example, they offer free German courses and classes, so you can actually do that very easily. So it is not, you don't need a specific degree of German knowledge to actually be able to work here. It was also not the problem at the German Weather Service when I was working there. Yeah, most of the people here speak English. the biggest problem that you could have is that you have to deal with administration, and that might still be German, very German centric, that you have to like fill out forms and things in German. But most of the time I have experienced that is that you will have colleagues that can help you with that. And so, yeah, that was that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yaítza, do you have anything to add to this theme?
Yes, I just want to like highlight that for the students that are in the audience, for the international students, a good way to explore how to get into the government, for example, I'm talking US because that's my experience. It's through internships, internship opportunities across different agencies. For example, I can drop in the chat, NASA have a web page that is nasa.gov/STEM, and it have all the details that you need to know if you are in international students. From undergrad to graduate level, we have different opportunities just for international students, and I encourage you to visit the different agencies pages and look for internship opportunities for international students, because across the government, there's plenty of opportunities. Another thing that I want to mention is that if you really want a job in US, the best tool that you can use is usjobs.gov, and over there they have a section that it's help, and if you put international jobs, there's a section that has links to resources of all the potential jobs within the United States government that are for international participants.
Great, thank you for those resources. Crystal, do you have anything to add to this theme?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. The next theme is all about finding and applying for jobs. So some of the questions are, what kinds of jobs are available with or without a PhD, with or without a master's? So I think people are curious about different levels of academic background and what kind of jobs can they find with those. What type of degree or work experience is most beneficial to finding a government position? Any tips on job applications, CVs, networking? What should I do before applying for a role in government? So quite a few questions related to this. Birgit, could you start with an answer for this one?
Sure. So here at our institute and at the German Aerospace Center, there's several different types of jobs available, for which you don't all need PhDs. So we have, of course, the jobs of research scientists and group leaders and stuff, and for those you would need a PhD. However, there's also more and more demand of research software engineers. So if you are really liking to program and understanding software and how to make software efficient and all kinds of high performance computing center deals, then that is an opportunity right there. And for that, you don't actually need a PhD. We have just recently hired 2 research software engineers. One has a PhD and that's fine, but one does not. And that's also okay. We didn't ask for a PhD for that. There is also, especially I think in the IT world, not just a research software engineer, but also helping with computers, the network within the research infrastructure, or in the labs, making sure that everything works fine with the aircraft measurements. Then that is also these are also jobs that you don't need a PhD for. So there is opportunities for non-PhD positions. For me, the application for jobs happened a lot of times just because I was somewhere and I talked to people. So, at a conference, you network and you find somebody that you are interested to work with, and they are interested in your work, and you get to chat, and then you kind of carefully mention, hey, maybe there is an opportunity, I'm looking for a job, or 2 years later you realize, hey, yeah, I talked to that person, maybe I can ask them. That happened to me a lot, but that might not necessarily be the only way. Well, that's definitely not the only way on how to approach applications. I know for sure that here in our department, in our institute, we get sometimes we get blind applications. So people are just interested. They mention, hey, they send their application, their CV in, and they say, hey, I'm interested in this. Is there anything open? Is there anything that you could, maybe you could consider hiring me? And oftentimes we are actually looking for people. And if the people are qualified, and with qualified, I mean, if they are working in the right topic or in the right field, have the right like qualifications degree-wise, that is very often an easier way to hire somebody for us than going through the process of actually having a job ad out and going through like 20 or 30 or 50 applications. It saves us time, and if we know and if we see that the qualifications are fine, then that helps a lot. It also helps if you have somebody that can vouch for you. So if you have a supervisor that knows somebody, and the supervisor asks somebody, hey, do you have a job? If that is basically a no-brainer for a lot of people, if they know that supervisor and that supervisor vouches for you, then you almost you have a foot in the door. So that helps a lot as well. There's not really, in my point of view, or from my experience, there's not really a lot that you need to do specifically to apply for a role in government. I didn't prepare specific things when I applied for jobs. Yeah, that is, but it might be, I might be biased in that it was my personal experience. It might be different for somebody else.
Great, that's all really helpful. Thank you, Birgit. Crystal, do you have anything to add to these questions about finding jobs, applying for jobs?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think there comes more security and more opportunities with higher degrees, with masters and PhDs. I know there are some opportunities out there for bachelors, particularly, I think there may be less of those only because more people have bachelors than other advanced degrees. In my experience, when I was working at Los Alamos National Lab, like it just always came, right? Like after I finished my bachelor's, I thought I'd be secure in having my job. And then different things would happen. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm kind of on the chopping block after my master's. And so even after my master's, the recession happened and a lot of people were getting cut. And unfortunately, before I got cut, I jumped ship and went into a PhD instead. And so I think, more security and more opportunities definitely come with those higher education, but you really have to be invested in those programs. I mean, just to say that more opportunities and more security comes with it. If your heart's not into a master's or a PhD, it's going to really be an awful experience, most likely. But speaking to the other questions, associated with finding job opportunities, I definitely think networking is key. Networking at those professional meetings, they're at the career fairs, or even, talking in hallways with people. I was a really shy person and I couldn't even get on stage to be able to save my life. But once I broke out of that shell of shyness, like there's a lot of tremendous opportunities that came my way, scholarship, fellowship opportunities to be able to be, I guess more of a risk taker, to really put yourself out there, seeking opportunities, and associated with that, building those relationships. So not just those one time, because it's hard for someone that you meet one time to not make a good impression, but really building beyond, just a basic connection of like saying, do you have a job possibility? But I mean, these networking events really get into things sometimes like, just knowing what you may be interested in as a hobby, or where have you worked in the past. And I mean, these things that you find similarities in associated with your career paths or academic path way. And then associated with, preparing yourself to work in government positions. For my job that I'm at, I have had a secure job before, meaning higher top clearances that I needed to have when I worked at the laboratories that I did. And in that, you really need to keep a history of like every place you live, communication with people that you talk to. And sometimes that can be hard, right? Like if you go through this whole academic journey through a bachelor's, maybe going to a PhD, or maybe doing master's then a PhD, to remember like your old high school or your old college apartment and what room were you in. And I mean, as far as address, because a lot of this stuff can get very detailed. And so I would just, if you ever have a desire to work at these places that require top clearances, then my best advice to you is to start tracing back your history, because it'll definitely be asked on a clearance application.
Well, that's
Can
really
I add
helpful.
something really quick?
Please, yes, thank you.
Yes, I'm gonna add, because for my experience is a little bit different, and I believe that finding a job and applying for a job is a job itself, and you need to invest on it. You need to find career coaches. You need to get ready your resume. Maybe you need to find mentors that help you review your resume. Have your elevator pitch ready for these networking opportunities, in order to explain people what do you want and what is your vision in your career. Also, having or create a list of interview questions, potential interview questions, practice them. Maybe find there's plenty of people that can help you review your resume and practice the interviews. Work in your brand. Also, there's like things like LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn profiles nowadays, companies, private sector, industry, and even government, they use LinkedIn as your live resume as well. So make sure that your LinkedIn is updated, have all the information. In other words, prepare yourself for the different for finding a job. So I think this is very important, because it's gonna give you the confidence, and as you prepare yourself, when you have these interviews, you are confident and you can perform better. So my recommendation for you is to prepare ahead. And there's plenty of tools online, free tutorials that you can use to set your resume. Government positions require different documents as well. So how do you prepare those documents? There's plenty of tutorials online. So prepare.
Great, thank you, Yaítza. And actually, can you take the first response to our next question about experiences with government? What is your favorite and least favorite thing about your job? What are the pros and cons of a government career as a scientist, and how is your work-life balance?
I think I mentioned this during my talk and then during the questions, that I have a motto that says science with purpose. I really like to help our society, and I'm here because of the bigger impact. So I think that's the best part of my job, having the opportunity with NASA data and NASA science to empower communities to make better decisions and to take action in the different problems that we face. And I'm also a big advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And that's the best part of my job, having the opportunity to really make a difference, to have a more diverse and equal opportunity inside the STEM environment. So that's the best part of my job.
Thank you. Birgit, could you respond to this, please?
Sure. Yeah, what I like about the job with the government is that, as Yaítza already said, you are really close to actually having an impact, right? So what we do is close to informing politicians, policymakers, and that will have an impact. It's very specific, you know, it's broad science, but it's tailored towards to inform your politicians, your policymakers, to make sure that what you found out is actually transferred into policy. And that's what I really like about it. What I don't like about the government position is the administration. It's bearable, but it's hard sometimes because it can be very inflexible. So whereas at university, for example, you can always find a little loophole to kind of do this, or you know, kind of like find your way around to actually achieve what you wanted to do. But there's more hurdles, I think, in governmental positions, and if you have a problem with that, then that might be tricky for you. Work-life balance. I do strive to have a work-life balance. I do work late hours if I have to, but I also enjoy not to. But I think that it's very similar in academia as well. You know, you can have somebody who is like working the necessary hours to get stuff done, or, you know, people who just kind of like take the absolute minimum hours that they need to work. And I think that's the same everywhere. If you like what you do, then it's also fine to put the hours in. And but as I said, I like my work-life balance, and it's actually possible to have it here in Germany. In the German Aerospace Center, we have really, well, in Germany, not just at the Aerospace Center, but we have really strict work laws. So I'm not allowed to work longer than 10 hours a day.
Can I add
Thank you.
something? I just totally forget. Sorry.
Sure, please. And then Crystal, I'd like
Well,
you to respond to this after that. If that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's important to establish healthy boundaries in your job environment in order to have this work-life balance. So, for example, the hours that you put in, make sure that you're not over, you know, like working. So this is very important. And to have a work-life balance, it's important to mention mental health. It's very important. Work on your mental health. For example, to have a work-life balance, I love dance, I love bodybuilding, and I made sure that I have time during my day and during my weekend to enjoy those activities, bodybuilding, fitness, dancing, or any other extra activities, because it's part, if you are healthy, you can produce better. So I think the work-life balance itself is extremely important.
Thank you, Yaítza. Crystal, do you have anything to add to this theme?
Yeah, definitely. The pros of working in a government career definitely are working as a science communicator, and working with people that are elected can be a challenge, just because, you know, they don't share the same background as you. But it also, you know, you can see it as an opportunity to be able to educate people about the science that may be applicable to either policy changes or opportunities to address some of these challenges. So, you know, I although it's like a pro and con mixed up in one, I do enjoy the opportunity to be able to work in the government with the individuals that I do, because it also teaches me to be a better communicator. Sometimes we think, you know, we have good communication skills, but when you're challenged in a different way, either talking to young students about what you do as a scientist, you know, that's another challenge in communication as well, to be able to use language and leave out the jargon, but language that they can understand. As far as work-life balance, you know, we have an opportunity to be able to you know, not be here day and night, which I'm grateful for. And I have 2 little kids, so they often tell me, you know, like it's time to come home, and weekends are our time together. And so to have reminders that constantly tell you about that is key to me. And, you know, for me, that was a choice that I made during my graduate school is, you know, I'm only as best as I am healthy. And sometimes you have to think about not only your physical health, but also your mental health, because you want to be an individual that's productive. And sometimes, if you're just working yourself over, you can burn out, and that can cause other challenges within your work that you are involved in as well.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And I think that's actually a perfect segue into this next topic area of values, which we're going to end with this theme and then move into the breakout session. So this is kind of a complex question, but if we could try to keep our responses as concise as possible. So you were talking about communication, Crystal. I'm wondering if you could expand on that and talk a little bit about how you recommend handling conflicts of values, workplace culture challenges. Could you talk a bit about that? Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important for you to have an understanding of your value as an individual. And sometimes, places that you work at may not necessarily highlight that, especially for me, right? Being a Native American, being a woman in science, the picture that Yaítza had shown, where she was the only person of minority and also the only woman, provides those challenges to where, there's a higher metric that you have to be able to meet in order to be thought of as an equal. And I definitely experienced that working at national labs. The current place that I work at definitely challenges me in a different way, to where it allows me the opportunity to remind myself of those cultural values, because the government that I work for, although it's a 3-branch government like the United States, it really is, our codes and regulations are all intertwined with our cultural values. So it provides me, although I, lived off the nation for a long time, going to school, when I came back, it provided that opportunity to remember those values that I was taught at such a young age. And so for me, sometimes it's providing that opportunity to be able to learn or remember where I come from and the people that I represent. And as far as pay, like the job that I have, I could definitely be making more for working for a different government or working in academia. But for me, it's not about the amount of money that I'm making in my salary. It's really about that difference and that I'm making in other people's lives by closing the clean water access gap. I grew up as someone who didn't have running water and electricity in my home in one of the richest countries in the world. And, sometimes that's hard for people to fathom. But my work that I do every day is to close that clean water access gap so that more Navajo residents have that opportunity to have indoor plumbing.
Thank you so much, Crystal. So I'm sure Birgit and Yaítza have more to add to this question. And we also had some questions about research, how that compares in academia versus government. But we're going to move into our breakout session.